just right now, they have this big climate week in New York City. And people like Joe Biden and others are saying, this is the greatest threat to humanity. I don't know if you saw, but Biden said the only existential threat, this is what he said in Hanoi just 2 days ago.
Guess what? In addition to helping the environment overall, and the only existential threat humanity faces, even which is more frightening than a nuclear war, is global warming going above 1.5 degrees in the next 10 years. And we're in real trouble. There's no way back from that.
The only existential threat to humanity, more frightening even than nuclear war, is global warming of 1.5 degrees.
That's why they don't seem to be taking that conflict between Russia and Ukraine all that seriously. Is because they're more worried about climate change. And I'm like, are they going to nuke the world? I'm not sure.
Yeah. But, Sheila, there's lots of polls around the world, even UN polls, that show that the average person is not concerned about climate change in comparison with things like peace and prosperity and food and water and freedom and all that sort of thing. And, the UN itself did a poll called My World. They started in 2015, and they got over 9 million people voting all across the world, largely in developing countries, which is interesting. And they listed 17 possible priorities for the UN to focus on. You were supposed to choose your top 6. And climate change came out dead last of the 17 priorities. Yeah. And you see this over and over. I mean, Gallup just did a poll in the United States. And, they're asking people questions about, how seriously do they take this, et cetera. And the bottom line is that the politicians are leading us into kind of a never land that the average person does not support.
Yep.
Okay, so you're right. This is an election issue. I don't know if you saw the GOP debate, the first primary debate for a candidate to be the GOP candidate for president. Ramaswamy, his name is.
Yes, Vivek.
He got up there and he said 3 times, the climate scare is a hoax. He said it 3 times. Okay, you couldn't miss it. And he said the only people dying from climate is from climate policy, not from climate change, which of course is true. Nobody dies from climate change. And, unless you have extreme cooling the way we did in Greenland, which of course led to the extinction of the Greenland colony. But Vivaswamy was very, very smart. Okay. And I was reading a recent opinion poll, and apparently after Trump, he's now the leading candidate. And we have to remember also that Stephen Harper was a strong climate skeptic.
Yep.
Okay. He said that the Kyoto Protocol, how did he put it? A socialist money grabbing scheme, I think were the terms he
Evergreen.
used. And yet he became prime minister.
Yes.
So I don't know why these people are so afraid of it. I mean, the average person would agree with them. It's stupid.
Going back to, I was just, while you were talking, because again, I live next door to a carbon capture facility, Shell's Quest facility, and they just proposed another one called Polaris. And I've seen the data on what this thing actually does. It releases more carbon than it captures. It's supposed to capture like 90% of Shell's greenhouse gas emissions, and I think it sequestered like 40% and released 60% of the it's just a big taxpayer boondoggle. The thing initially, like 15 years ago, cost a little over $1 billion. I can't even imagine putting a shovel in the ground for less than $2 billion at this point. But more than half of that money came from subsidies and grants from the provincial government and the federal government. It's just a make work virtue signaling project that even if you cared about greenhouse gas emissions, and I definitely don't, it doesn't do what it says it's going to do.
Yeah. And actually, this is interesting. If you were a true left-wing, socially conscious environmentalist, you should oppose wind and solar power. You should oppose many of the plans that they're promoting. And you might have seen the film by Michael Moore, a very left-wing film producer, called Planet of the Humans. And in Planet of the Humans, they show that wind and solar are probably the most filthy energy sources on the planet. When you look how they mine the lithium, the cobalt, and children in the Congo to get you the cobalt, they have no plan for getting rid of all the wind turbines. They don't actually decompose easily, the fiberglass fiberglass, etc. And of course, enormous amount of toxic waste from solar panels. When they're used up, they just throw them in the ground. So, the whole thing is that if you were interested in social justice,
right,
you should absolutely support Canadian oil and gas, okay? Because we have the highest ethical standards in the way we treat our workers.
Oh, hey, what you just saw there is a clip from my weekly full-length show, The Gunn Show. It airs on Wednesday, but this is the internet. You can watch it whenever you feel like. You just have to become a subscriber to our paywalled premium content. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com to become a member today.